Here you'll find discussion around developing a session intervention plan, often referred to as a SIP. Beginning with the purpose. The purpose of the SIP is to provide a guide for the clinician that outlines what he or she intends to do and how to train a given skill, keeping in mind that this is a guide. Therefore, there is room for adjustment. A long-term goal is the desired long-range behavior developed as a result of identified needs. Long-term goals can be framed using the SLP scope of practice. Any one or more of the communication or swallowing areas that ASHA refers to as the Big Eight can serve as a guide to shape appropriate long-term goals. These goals typically serve as a functional framework that aims to work toward discharge. They also serve as a way to track progress across varying periods of time and encourage equal participation amongst all participants. In example 1, you'll find that the overarching skill is for Emma to practice healthy and safe vocal behaviors. The functional aspect includes a demonstration of this skill across a variety of her settings. In the second example, the idea is for Thomas to improve written language, specifically appropriate use of grammatical features within written activities in the classroom environment at school. The functional aspect here includes the academic curriculum. Short-term objectives, sometimes referred to as behavioral objectives, are the smaller, incremental steps to achieve long-term goals. They must include the following: an audience or performer. This can be the client or the client and caregiver or caregivers. An action or performance. This is the specific, observable, and measurable behavior to be elicited by the clinician. The condition, which speaks to the circumstances of which the behavior must be performed. The criterion, which yields the unit of measure. It speaks to the quality or degree to which the behavior must be completed before moving on to the next task or skill. The procedure outlines the clinician's proposed process or methodology for training a given skill. It will include the following: an antecedent event, a client response, consequent event, fail criterion, tally, increasing and decreasing task difficulty, and a rationale. The antecedent event speaks specifically to what stimulus or stimuli will be presented and how. Essentially, what will the clinician say and do to elicit the client response? The response speaks specifically to the desired client response. Of course, this is yielded by the target short-term objective, but shaped by the antecedent event. The 3 examples here provide a variety of what responses could look like on the session intervention plan. We could assume that the corresponding behavior for the first example may sound something like, Marcella will produce 2 to 3 word utterances. For the second example, Brandon will use gestures to request objects. For the third example, Matilda will produce target phonemes. Matilda will produce bilabials. The consequent event will be the clinician's description of what will be done and or said in response to the client's response. Below are examples of what they could sound and look like. The fail criterion is opposite the pass criterion, which is outlined in your target objective. Essentially, it is the clinician's key or indication to know when the task requires an adjustment. For example, if the pass criterion is set to perform a given behavior in 8 out of 10 trials, the clinician will know to adjust the level of support or shift the task around the second or third trial. It may be ineffective to wait until the client has failed 50% of the remaining opportunities, which would be around the fourth or fifth trial. The tally refers to the clinician's system for recording responses and monitoring the client's progression toward or away from a target skill. Increasing and decreasing task difficulty refers to the branching skills that will support the client in a given activity for task of a given skill. Essentially, what will the clinician do to support the client in promoting a desired behavior or decreasing an undesired behavior? Below are examples of what the phrasing could look like. And lastly, the rationale. This discusses the reasoning behind why the clinician has selected the specific activity to target a particular objective for a given client, and how it is appropriate for the client at that particular time. Below are examples to guide the phrasing to begin this discussion. That's all for now. Until next time.